Last October, Pastor Jin was arrested in China along with 27 other pastors and church leaders from Zion Church. It was one of the largest assaults on independent Christian congregations in China in decades. Pastor Jin's daughter, Grace Jin Drexel, has since become a prominent voice, speaking out against religious persecution in China. She joined Jan Jekielek on American Thought Leaders to talk about her father and the situation in China.
Give me a picture. What is his status right now? What is the situation with him?
Yeah, so my father's church in 2018 was officially shut down in Beijing. And since then, he has been under an exit ban from leaving China. Prior to that, my mother, my brothers, and I had moved to the US with the blessing of the church so that we would not be collateral damage. And so since then, because my father has been exit banned, it has not been safe for us to go back to China. And so we have been living, we were able to communicate via Zoom and like various online tools. But generally speaking, we haven't seen him physically. We haven't, like, there's so many parts of our lives that he has missed out on. Like, he was not able to walk me down the aisles at my wedding. He was not able to attend my baby's baptism and all of these things. So, and my brothers was an elementary school student and is now about to graduate high school, and none of those events have been like physically witnessed by my father since 2018. But in October of 2025, the church continued to grow. And so in October of 2025, the government has detained my father along with initially close to 30 leaders of the church. And now 18 people, including my father, are still detained in China in Guangxi province. And so now it's gotten even worse. Like, we can't even talk to him at all. Like, we are not able to communicate with him directly, not even with letters, not even with phone calls. And the only communications that we can have is through his lawyers currently, who might see him once a month or even less sometimes, depending on their schedule. So that's sort of where we are at right now.
Take us back to October 10th, 2025. And clearly you knew that there was something kind of in the works since 2018. This is the reason you left. But the church still flourished despite being somewhat restricted. Just explain to me, how that changed and then what happened on the 10th of.
So let's go back to 2018. That was part of a wave of general persecution on many Christian churches and many other religious organizations as well. But in terms of for Christians, you saw tearing down of crosses, putting portraits of Xi Jinping and Mao Zedong on church buildings. You saw that with the independent church or house churches, like many times we heard about various raids every week, where pastors would be dragged out from their podium, and whoever was by tens of police would storm in, and anyone who tried to stop the taking away of the pastors would be also equally punished. So that was, in a way, that was the backdrop of a general trend of what was happening in China. And at that time, in September 9th of 2018, my father's church was also shut down. And hundreds of police came to our church building that Sunday and threw everyone out and had kept my father inside for many hours, and we weren't able to communicate with him at that point. And then after a few hours, they released him, but everyone was heavily surveyed for several months. No one in Beijing would offer another meeting place for Zion Church. Zion Church was officially deemed illegal business operations, etc. and after that, my father had continued to want to minister to his congregation. So we started doing this online, offline hybrid model. And we didn't know where that was going to go. But in fact, in 2020, when COVID and the pandemic happened, the whole world shut down, but especially in China, there was a policy where no one was able to leave, and it was leave their houses for months at a time, etc. And so at that moment, Zion Church's model of this online worship actually exploded and expanded nationwide. And so Zion Church, despite government persecution, grew out of this desperation and out of this forced way of meeting online, because there was no physical location for us, has become a new model and a new kind of revitalization of the church itself. And so because of that influence, I think in October 2025, we see that beginning in 2025 and now up to 2026, there is a new wave of persecution coming, is not just targeted to Zion Church, but to many churches and many other religious groups as well. And so in that context, on October 10th, I found out that my father was detained along with 27 leaders of my father's church at that point from all across the nation. And currently, we know that 18 of them are still detained.
Now, I understand Zion Church. I mean, this was publicly done on the internet. This is available, like the authorities could watch it themselves, right? So there's some kind of an attempt it might be difficult for people to understand. How is it possible that you were having church services online with the authorities watching, even after, being shut down?
Yeah.
And then, well, of course, we know what happened, but how did that work?
I think that my father's church was always very open about our church gatherings. We assumed that we would be watched by authorities. And then if they shut down an account, we just open another account. And then we say if there are spies, then we minister to them too. And we welcome them to join in our Sunday services as well. So we operated, like you said, very openly, and we are not against the government, so we also didn't say anything too political. We were just trying to worship like a normal church in the US and the rest of the world. And so we had nothing to hide. I think that even with the charges that we are being charged with, it's called illegal use of information online. And if you push them and you ask them what is the illegal information that is being spread, they can only point to, yes, the sermons and the worship music that is still available on YouTube, and you can go and check it out. And then it's very much just like a normal church anywhere. So then you have to ask the question of, why is that illegal in China? And what is it about this normal sermon and worship music that is illegal, and why? And I don't want to be the one answering to those questions in the communist China.
Mm-hmm.
To watch the full episode, visit American Thought Leaders with Jan Jekielek on the Epoch Times.